Have you ever wondered why it seems so easy for some people to learn many languages, but it's so difficult for you? Well, maybe the secret is the methods they use to learn languages. So here today, I am with Anja, a German polyglot and an entrepreneur in the language industry. And she's here to share from her experiences the mysteries of the best method for you to learn your favorite languages. Well, tell us, what is the best method to learn our favorite languages?
Okay, so spoiler alert. I don't think that there is just one key that you can find and then use it for all doors, for all languages. I think it's very important to, first of all, try different keys, so different tools, but then also to use different keys for different languages. And then we're all different. So yeah, to learn more about yourself as well when you learn a language. What are the skills that you know in life in general? Because actually you can apply a lot of those skills to language learning.
For example, what kind of skills can you apply?
So for example, one of my very strong skills in general is communication. I'm a person who listens a lot to other people.
And you pay particular attention to accents and prosody, etc.?
I try to, yeah. I'm born and raised in Germany. My native language is German. And so I remember when I started learning Spanish, I couldn't do it. This is one of the skills that I used in my life because I know how to listen and then also to differentiate, to understand, okay, they're doing it differently. I think for weeks, it just really wouldn't work. So I would start like, Roberto. Corre. Corre el ferrocarril. This was one of the skills that I applied from communication skills to language learning, right? So if you're very analytical, that's also great for language learning because you will find your way of using those analytical skills to learn vocabulary or even find your way into grammar systems, because it can also be very systematic.
You see patterns, in other words. Like, let's say that you speak English, then you can see patterns of vocabulary with the Romance languages.
Exactly. So if you're a very systematic person, I think that helps a lot. One of the other keys that you can try to open that door is a lot of discipline. The lack of discipline is one of the main reasons why people stop learning a language.
Give up.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of experience with teaching languages. You have a company that teaches languages. What leads to success among your students?
One of the main things that should be very clear is the big why. And I always talk about the book Start With Why, because it's a business book, but I think you can apply the concept to so many things in life.
So why are you learning the languages?
Exactly. So there's basically it's 3 circles. So how you do things and what you do. The why should be the center of everything. And I can say that also, not just from my students' perspective, but also from my personal experience, I've studied over 13 languages. I speak maybe 5 to 6 fluently.
She's being modest because her fluency is extremely high standard. It's native-like. Yes.
Thank you. The languages that I feel I succeeded in, those are the languages that I had a why.
Can you give me an example of the why for, let's say, Spanish?
Oh, the why for Spanish was, I think in the beginning, I really wanted to learn more about Latin American culture. I had moved to Mexico. So when you move to a new country, obviously there is a why as well to communicate with people. Over time, it was also for business reasons. My whys are always related to connection. So, for example, Nahuatl, which is one of my favorite languages, it's an indigenous language.
Where's that spoken?
Central Mexico, Mexico City, Puebla.
So your why for Nahuatl was to know more about the culture or relate to the people?
Yeah, the people, I think. And when we learn a language, it's not just for the purpose of learning the language, but you get a whole new vision, and especially for Nahuatl. So when you only speak Spanish living in Mexico, it's like seeing the country in black and white. But once you start learning an indigenous language, you start seeing the colors of the country because you understand the meanings of the places. So for me, it was like the connection with the people, but then also this connection with the country, with the places.
There are Mexicans who only speak Spanish. I mean, they may know foreign language, but they don't speak English.
Yeah, most Mexicans only speak Spanish. Exactly.
Okay. The why is motivation. We have to apply our skills that we're good at, like whether it be our listening skills or analytical skills. What's very important is that we have to know our motivation and keep that in front, right? To keep you going. Okay, then where would you go? What about the how you create courses and such. Is there certain things that you have in your courses that reflect what you've learned through your own language learning?
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, in our how, we connect our learners to their why. Usually for German, for example, it's work. So we connect them to companies in Europe, right? Yeah.
So it would be quite different if somebody's going to work in Germany or go to medical school.
Exactly.
The vocabulary they need.
Exactly. When you have this purpose-driven language learning, then you connect it to the job in general, and then this is your driver.
So that means the kind of vocabulary that you focus on?
Yeah,
or,
but
or
also,
certain register of speaking?
So the vocabulary for sure, but then also in terms of what you need to learn, right? And how you need to prepare for certain things. So for example, yes, they have to pass an exam to get the visa, but on the other hand, they have to be ready to really work in that language.
You have to know the culture.
Reality, exactly. You have to know the culture.
So how do you teach the culture to the students?
So real life examples. So in terms of nurses, we connect them with other nurses. It doesn't help us if we train people to pass the exam.
So how they actually speak it.
Exactly. That's so important. For example, Spanish, we connect with a lot of people, Americans. We want to retire in Mexico, so we teach Mexican Spanish, but the purpose is really to live in the country.
Let's boil that down for the listeners. They have to think of the situations in which they expect to use the language.
Yes.
And then find the right vocabulary, sentences, and way of communication.
So you have your why, and then the how is basically what is really important to me right now at this stage. Over time, this changes, and you have to know that maybe the first door you open, which is maybe the A1 level, you use a key, but then maybe the second door, let's say it's the A2 level, you might need to use another door for that. So you might need to have another key as well. And I think that's important, the how. So for example, if it's reading material or listening material or conversation and so on. Just because experts tell you to do something in a certain way, I always recommend everybody in business and in language learning, listen to your inner voice. What that expert tells you, maybe you can only use 60% for yourself,
Yeah, you tailor it to yourself. First of all, we want to apply the skills that we know we're good at, or develop those skills too. So communication skills, etc. If you're analytical, take a look at how words are formed, and then grammar, etc. But it seems to me you keep saying the most important is understand why you'll want to learn the language, your motivation, and that should lead you to what to focus on. Well, I greatly appreciate all the advice today, and I'm sure our listeners will get so much from it.